The Grounded King, a 10-million-year lullaby of the dodo. The Grounded King, a 10-million-year lullaby of the dodo. Chapter 1. The Emerald Cradle of the Indian Ocean. The sun does not simply set over the Indian Ocean. It dissolves. It loosens itself from the sky like a heavy golden coin slipping through warm fingers. And slowly, luxuriously, it sinks toward the horizon. The light stretches and thins, spilling across the water in ribbons of copper, rose, and violet. Far below this cathedral of color lies a secret. Resting in the sapphire waters east of Madagascar, wrapped in the warm embrace of the sea, is the island of Mauritius. It is a place where time does not rush forward in straight, jagged lines. It moves instead in circles, in tides that come and go, in breezes that return to the same emerald palms night after night. To understand the dodo, the bird known to science as Raphus cucullatus, we must first understand its home. Imagine yourself there, in the golden hour of a century long forgotten. You are resting on a bed of soft, cool moss at the edge of a dry coastal wood. The moss is springy and forgiving, cradling you as gently as a pillow. The air is warm, but it carries a refreshing coolness from the mountain peaks. It smells of damp earth, blooming orchids hidden in the shadows, and the faint, steady salt of the reef. Somewhere beyond the trees, the waves fold themselves over the coral in a slow, patient rhythm. A heartbeat for an island that has never known the frantic pace of the mainland. Mauritius is a volcanic jewel, a mountain of stone that rose from the depths of the ocean floor less than 10 million years ago. It was born in fire and steam, but the rain and the wind eventually cloaked it in a velvet mantle of green. Before the first human footprint ever pressed into its silver sands, the island was a sanctuary of silence and sunlight. It was a closed loop of harmony, a world designed for peace. But how did our protagonist, the gentle dodo, find its way to this isolated paradise? If you listen closely to the rustle of the palms, you can almost hear the distant echo of wings from millions of years ago. Their story did not begin on the ground. Their ancestors were travelers, great determined pigeons that once crossed vast stretches of the blue, guided by the stars and the scent of land. They were island hoppers, moving from South Asia across the sea, leaping from one volcanic peak to the next. Around 23 million years ago, near the Paleogene-Neogene boundary, their lineage parted from their distant kin. While their cousins remained in the high canopies of far-off lands, these brave pioneers found Mauritius. And here, they discovered something that changed the very course of their being. safety. On Mauritius, there were no clever foxes. There were no hungry cats or stalking wolves. No mammalian predators crept through the brush at night. The forest offered a banquet that never ended. Fallen tambalacoque fruits, seeds, bulbs and nuts scattered generously across the ground. In this world of abundance and security, the dodo made a profound romantic trade with nature. It surrendered the sky in exchange for the earth. Over thousands of generations, the dodo's wings grew smaller and softer, becoming paidomorphic, retaining the delicate downy features of youth even into adulthood. Their bodies grew larger and more robust, a process called perimorphism, as they adapted to a life of walking. They became the giants of their family, the columbidae. They were cousins to the pigeons and doves that coo on windowsills today, but they had grown into something majestic and singular. Their closest living relative, the shimmering Nicobar pigeon, still carries an iridescent echo of that shared ancestry in its feathers. But the dodo became the king of the forest floor. As you lie on your bed of moss, the dusk deepens. The first stars begin to prick through the indigo canopy like bright seeds. You notice a movement in the shadows, not a frantic scurry, but a slow, dignified tread. A male dodo emerges into the clearing. In this forgiving light, you can see that the old stories of clumsy birds were merely the inventions of tired sailors. He is a creature of balance. He stands nearly 75 centimeters tall, his brownish-grey plumage catching the last of the amber light and shimmering like brushed velvet. He is substantial, weighing perhaps 15 kilograms, but he moves with a quiet, grounded grace. His yellow feet press firmly into the leaf-strewn earth, and his head, grey and naked of feathers, is held with an air of ancient curiosity. Beside him walks his mate. She is slightly smaller, her movements a mirror of his own. Their partnership is one of deep, unspoken intimacy. They have walked these same paths for years, navigating the tangled roots of the Casieria tinifolia and the swaying ferns. They are not solitary ghosts. They are a pair, bound by the rhythm of the island. The male lowers his beak, a remarkable tool of black, pale green and yellow, curved into a gentle hook, and nudges a cluster of fallen fruit toward her. It is a quiet gesture, a small romantic offering in the twilight. She accepts it, her dark eyes reflecting the rising moon. To help digest their hearty meal, they have swallowed small, smooth pebbles, gizzard stones gathered from the riverbeds, which clink softly within them as they move, like the chimes of the forest itself. In a shallow depression in the earth, lined with dry leaves and twigs, lies their single egg. Just one. In a world of safety, one is enough. Their entire future and the weight of their 10-million-year journey is contained within that smooth, fragile shell. They do not need to hurry. They do not need to hide. The island is their cradle, and the ocean is their wall. From deep within his chest, the male releases a call. It is a low, rounded, two-note sound that rolls through the trees like a soft drum. Do, do. The sound is not an alarm. It is a lullaby. It is the sound of a bird that has never known an enemy. It is the sound of a world in perfect equilibrium. As the shadows stretch out and the forest begins to breathe with the cool air of night, the dodos settle. They tuck their heads beneath their small, soft wings. The history of their arrival is a miracle of chance and evolution, a story of birds who followed the sun and found a home where they could finally rest their wings. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the steady pulse of that ancient forest. The dodo is at rest, grounded and secure, and the island of Mauritius holds them both in its emerald arms. Chapter 2: A Symphony of the Sunlit Wood. The dawn on Mauritius does not break with a crash. It arrives as a gentle unfolding, a soft spilling of light through the canopy of the tambalacoque and pandanus trees. The mist, which has clung to the ferns and the limestone ridges all night like a velvet shroud, begins to lift in wisps, revealing a world that seems freshly painted. Every leaf is tipped with a diamond of dew, and the air is cool, carrying the sharp, sweet fragrance of the palm orchid. Our dodo pair stirs as the first rays of light filter down to the forest floor. The male is the first to open his eyes, those round, dark diamonds that Peter Mundy once described as rolling with a gentle curiosity. He stretches his neck, feeling the strength in his robust vertebrae, and shakes his brownish-grey plumage. A few soft, ashen tail feathers, curved and delicate, settle back into place at his rear. He looks toward his mate, who is still nestled near their single, precious egg. There is no urgency in his movements. In this drier coastal wood of the south and west, the day promises only what the day before provided: abundance and peace. The male's journey for the morning begins with his most powerful sense. While his wings have surrendered the sky, his mind has sharpened in other ways. His brain holds a secret that science would only discover centuries later: a remarkably large olfactory bulb. He inhales deeply, his beak, a masterpiece of black, yellow, and green, twitching slightly. He is not just breathing, he is reading the forest. He can smell the fermentation of a fallen palm fruit 3 groves away. He can detect the earthy musk of a hidden root, or the sweet, fatty scent of a ripening nut. He begins his morning forage, his yellow feet treading with a measured, rhythmic thump soft against the damp earth. To a casual observer, he might seem greedy, as the old Dutch letters would one day claim, but in truth, he is a creature of the seasons. It is the end of the wet season, and he must fatten himself. He knows that the dry months will follow, when the fruits will be scarce and the woods will grow thirsty. He eats with a quiet intensity. His beak, capable of withstanding high force loads, cracking open the hard shells of seeds that other birds could never hope to taste. As he wanders, he is not alone. The forest is a crowded gallery of the unique and the beautiful. He pauses by a stream to drink, and there, grazing like a slow grey boulder, is the saddle-backed Mauritius giant tortoise. The tortoise moves with a prehistoric patience, its long neck reaching for the low-hanging leaves of Acaciaria tinifolia. They share a silent, mutual respect, two giants of the island floor who have no reason to fear one another. High above, the broad-billed parrot screams a greeting, its feathers a riot of colour against the emerald leaves. The Mauritius blue pigeon, with its silver-white head and deep indigo body, watches from a high branch, a smaller cousin to the dodo, yet equally at home in this paradise. The woods are alive with the chatter of the mascarene grey parakeet and the soft, haunting call of the Mauritius scops owl, retreating into the shadows for its daytime rest. The dodo male finds a particularly rich cluster of fallen palm fruits. He does not eat them all himself. With a romantic devotion that has defined his species for millions of years, he gathers the best of the bounty. He uses his large crop, an anatomical wonder that allows him to store food for later, to carry the treasures back. This crop is more than just a pantry. It is the source of crop milk, a nutrient-rich gift that he and his mate will use to nourish their young when the egg finally hatches. By midday, the tropical sun is high, and the forest grows hushed and heavy with heat. The dodo returns to his mate. He finds her in the shade of a large fern, her naked grey head resting against the cool limestone. He nudges the fruits toward her, and together they partake in the midday meal. Their upper jaws, movable and rhynchokinetic, allow them to consume large items with a grace that belies their size. After eating, they perform a ritual essential to their survival. They move toward a nearby riverbed where the water has polished the stones into smooth, marble-like orbs. Here, they select their gizzard stones. These gastroliths, some as large as nutmegs, are swallowed whole. Inside their powerful gizzards, these stones act as internal millstones, grinding the tough seeds and fibrous fruits into a paste that their bodies can absorb. It is a mechanical magic, a way to turn the hardest offerings of the island into life-sustaining energy. As the afternoon wanes, the dodo pair engages in display behavior. The male extends his small wings, wings that, while unable to lift him into the air, are far from useless. He fans them out, showing the blackish feathers that protrude where flight feathers once were. He balances himself, preening the soft, downy plumes of his mate's neck with his hooked beak. It is a moment of profound calm, a silent communication of bond and territory. Though they are not aggressive like their cousins, the Rodriguez solitaires, they use their presence and their voices to maintain the boundaries of their woodland home. The shadows begin to lengthen again, turning the forest into a cathedral of amber and ink. The Mauritian giant skink scuttles across a fallen log, its scales shimmering like oil on water. The small Mauritian flying fox begins to stir in the canopy, its leathery wings rustling as it prepares for its nightly flight to pollinate the very trees the dodo relies upon. The dodo pair returns to their nest. The male stands guard, his strong legs and agile frame ready to maneuver through the dense landscape should anything, perhaps a falling branch or a curious tortoise, come too close to their single egg. He is well adapted, a product of millions of years of island hopping and evolution. He is a master of this drier coastal wood, a specialist of the south and west. As you settle deeper into your rest, imagine the sounds of this afternoon. The clink of gizzard stones, the rustle of palm fronds, the low, contented doo-doo of the pair as they settle in for the evening. The island is an ecosystem of interconnected lives. The tortoise, the parrot, the flying fox, and the dodo, all moving in a dance that has no end. The forest is a place of abundance, where greed is merely survival, and where love is expressed in the sharing of a tambalacoque fruit. The dodo is not a myth. He is the heartbeat of Mauritius, the grounded king of a sun-drenched wood. And as the moon begins its ascent, the symphony of the day fades into the quiet, rhythmic breathing of the island. Chapter 3. The horizon breaks. For 10 million years, the horizon of Mauritius was a seamless ring of sapphire and sky. The dodos knew the sea only as a boundary of salt, a great blue that brought nothing but rain and the occasional driftwood. But in the late autumn of 1598, the rhythm of the tides brought something the island had never seen. The male dodo stood on a limestone outcrop near Tamarin Bay, his diamond-round eyes reflecting a shift in the light. Out where the waves broke over the reef, giant white clouds seemed to be moving against the wind. These were not clouds, of course, but the sails of the second Dutch expedition to Indonesia, led by Vice Admiral Wijbrand van Vaarwijk. The arrival of the Dutch was the beginning of a profound misunderstanding between two worlds. As the heavy wooden hulls of ships like the Gelderland scraped against the silver sands, the dodo pair watched from the shadows of the pandanus trees. They did not flee. Evolution had gifted them with peace, but it had not taught them fear. To the dodo, these new, tall creatures wrapped in fabric were merely another curiosity, perhaps like a very large, upright tortoise. The sailors who stepped onto the shore were weary, salt-crusted, and starving. They looked at the dodo and saw not a masterpiece of evolution, but a meal. In his journal, Van Warwijk recorded the bird as the walgvogel, the tasteless or sickly bird. The name was born of a culinary frustration. The longer they cooked the dodo, the tougher and more insipid the meat became. Yet the sailors were desperate. While they disdained the dodo's legs, they found the breast and belly to be of a pleasant flavor. As you listen to the night wind, imagine the confusion of those first encounters. The sailors called them dronte, meaning swollen, or kermisgans, after the fattened geese of the Amsterdam festivals. The etymology of the name dodo itself remains a romantic mystery. Some say it comes from the Dutch dodor, for sluggard, or the Portuguese dodo, for fool. Others, perhaps more attuned to the soul of the bird, believe it was an onomatopoeic approximation of the bird's own call, that deep, vibrating doo-doo that echoed through the woods. One of the most evocative descriptions came from Sir Thomas Herbert in 1634. He looked at the dodo with the eyes of a poet, noting its melancholy visage, as if the bird were sensible of nature's injury in framing such a large body with wings so small and impotent. He described their eyes as small and like to diamonds, their plumage as downy feathers, and their rear as a train of 3 small plumes. But while the sailors were busy naming and sketching, they were also unwittingly bringing the dodo's world to an end. The ships carried ghosts in their holds, rats, pigs, and monkeys. These invasive species were the true invaders. The dodo pair, who had lived in a closed loop of harmony, now found their single egg under threat. The pigs rooted through the soil, destroying the dry coastal woods, while the rats discovered the vulnerability of a nest built on the ground. In the midst of this change, a strange myth began to grow: the legend of the white dodo. For years, people believed a pale version of the bird lived on the nearby island of Réunion. We know now, through the quiet work of sub-fossil research, that this was a beautiful mistake. The white dodo was likely the Réunion ibis, combined with the imaginative flair of European painters who had never seen a live specimen. As the 17th century progressed, sightings of the dodo became rarer. The last widely accepted sighting occurred in 1662 on a small islet off the coast, likely l'île aux Bénitiers. The dodo pair we have been following retreated further into the highlands, their greedy appetite for palm fruits harder to satisfy as the forests were cleared for timber. The world of men began to label the dodo as inept. Carl Linnaeus, the father of taxonomy, eventually gave it the binomial name Didus ineptus. It was a harsh judgment for a bird that had survived 10 million years with perfect grace. The clumsiness depicted in paintings like Roland Savary's Edwards's Dodo was often based on overfed captive birds in Europe, or crudely stuffed specimens that didn't reflect the agile, maneuverable bird that could run quite fast through the dense Mauritian landscape. Back in our story, the moon rises over the Mare aux Songes swamp. The dodo pair stands near the water's edge. The forest is louder now, the sound of wood being chopped, the squeal of pigs, the unfamiliar voices of men. The male dodo nudges his mate, his green and black beak touching her naked grey head. They are a symbol of a world that is slipping away, not because they were obsolete, but because the rules of their world had been rewritten overnight. As you settle into your pillows, think of the dodo not as a failure, but as a witness. They were the first to call our attention to the previously unrecognized problem of human involvement in the disappearance of species. They were the martyrs of the modern age, their extinction unnoticed for years, with some even believing the bird was a total myth, a phoenix of Arabia that never truly existed. The dodo tucks its head beneath its wing one last time. The ships in the harbour are dark, their lanterns flickering like fallen stars. The island is changing, but in the quietest parts of the woods, the memory of the doo-doo call still lingers in the air. You are safe in the present, learning from the past, wrapped in the warmth of a story that honors the truth of a bird that was much more than a fool. Chapter 4. The Ghost in the Machine. The forest of Mauritius had grown quiet. By the late 17th century, the heavy, rhythmic tread of the dodo had vanished from the coastal woods, and for over 100 years the bird existed only as a ghost in the journals of dead sailors. In Europe, the dodo became a source of intense debate, not as a living creature, but as a potential myth. Some scholars argued that such a monstrous bird could never have existed at all, while others held on to the few physical remains like holy relics. The dodo was slipping into the realm of the unicorn, a fabulous beast that had purportedly occupied a volcanic island that was now a bustling plantation. But the dodo was not content to remain a ghost. It began its second life in the cool, quiet halls of 19th century science. The turning point came in 1842 in the candlelit study of Johannes Theodor Reinhardt. He was a man who looked past the clumsiness of the paintings and focused on the bone. Holding a dodo's skull in his hands, he traced the high domed forehead and the specific placement of the nostrils. While others claimed the dodo was a relative of the vulture or the ostrich, Reinhardt saw the truth. The dodo was a giant terrestrial pigeon. This revelation sparked a scientific renaissance. In 1848, Hugh Edwin Strickland and Alexander Gordon Melville published The Dodo and Its Kindred. This was the moment the dodo moved from folklore into the rigorous light of anatomy. They examined the Oxford dodo, a specimen that had once been a complete stuffed bird in the Tradescant collection, but had decayed until only the head and foot remained. Strickland, with the precision of a surgeon and the heart of a poet, noted the shared features between the dodo and the common dove: the keratinous beak, the bare skin around the eyes, and the specific scales on the legs. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the excitement of these researchers as they realized the dodo was a masterpiece of specialization. It wasn't a failed bird. It was a bird that had reached a peak of evolutionary adaptation. The story took another dramatic turn in the Mare aux Songes swamp. In 1865, a local schoolmaster named George Clark began excavating the mud of this ancient wetland. There, preserved in the anaerobic silt, he found the treasures the world had been waiting for: thousands of dodo bones. These subfossil remains allowed scientists to reconstruct the bird's true form for the first time. They discovered that the dodo's leg bones were robust and powerful, built for navigating the uneven volcanic terrain of the island. They realized the bird was likely quite agile, capable of a brisk run through the dense undergrowth to find a falling tambalacoque fruit. But the most intimate secrets of the dodo were hidden deep within its DNA. We fast forward to the early 21st century, where Beth Shapiro and her team at Oxford University took a tiny fragment of bone from a tarsal, a foot bone, and performed a miracle. They extracted ancient DNA and compared it to hundreds of living bird species. The results were definitive. The dodo's closest living relative is the Nicobar pigeon. The DNA revealed a story of incredible travel. About 23.03 million years ago, at the transition between the Paleogene and Neogene periods, the ancestors of the dodo and the Rodriguez solitaire, its sister species from a nearby island, diverged from their flighted kin. They were part of the subtribe Raphina, a lineage that turned the sky into a home on the ground. And what of the dodo's mind? For centuries, the name dodo was synonymous with stupidity. But modern science has corrected this injury. In 2016, researcher Eugenia Gold used high-resolution CT scans to examine a dodo brain endocast. She found that the dodo's brain-to-body size ratio was entirely consistent with modern pigeons, birds that are known for their intelligence, navigation skills, and ability to be trained. Even more fascinating was the discovery of the dodo's olfactory bulbs. They were unusually large for a bird. This means the dodo lived in a world of scent. While most birds rely almost entirely on sight, the dodo smelled its way through the forest. It could likely detect the fragrance of a ripening fruit from deep within the woods, navigating the dark understory with a sensory map that we can only imagine. As you settle into the stillness of the night, think of the dodo as a creature of great sensory depth. It was a bird of memory and smell, a bird that cared for its mate and its single egg with the same cognitive complexity as the doves we see today. It was a perfected being for its environment, a specialist that thrived for millions of years until the rules of the world changed too fast for it to follow. The researchers of the 19th century and the geneticists of the 21st have brought the dodo back to us, not as a caricature, but as a living, breathing part of our history. The ghost has been given flesh, bone, and a brilliant searching mind. The dodo is no longer a symbol of what it means to be inept. It is a symbol of what it means to belong so perfectly to a place that you become a part of its soul. The candles in the study are flickering out. The swamp at Mauritius is quiet, its secrets safely recorded. The dodo is back in its rightful place, not as a myth, but as a grand terrestrial pigeon of the mascarenes. You are safe in the knowledge that the truth always surfaces, given enough time and enough love. Chapter 5. The Immortal Icon. The dodo did not truly die in the late 17th century. It simply moved house. It left the tangled thickets of Mauritius and took up residence in the most vast and enduring landscape of all, the human imagination. As the physical bird faded into the silt of the mer aux songes, it underwent a transformation, becoming a mirror in which we see our own relationship with the natural world. In this final chapter, we see how the dodo became immortal, a symbol of both what we have lost and what we must strive to protect. The dodo's second life began on canvas. In the 1620s, the Dutch painter Roland Savary sat in his sun-drenched studio, dipping his brushes into oils of earth and slate. Savary's paintings, particularly his Edwards's Dodo, gave the bird its most famous silhouette, plump, regal, and slightly melancholy. Further east, at the Mughal court, the master artist Ustad Mansour was painting a dodo that had likely arrived as a gift in the imperial menagerie. Mansour's dodo was different, slimmer, more brownish, with bright, rolling eyes. These artists were the first to preserve the dodo's visage for eternity. Because of them, the dodo became the first extinction to have a face. But it was in 1865 that the dodo truly became a household name. Lewis Carroll, a man who understood the logic of dreams, invited the dodo into the pages of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. In Carroll's world, the dodo is not a figure of ridicule, but a leader. It is the dodo who suggests the caucus race, a race with no clear beginning, no clear end, where everyone moves in their own way, and most importantly, where everyone wins. This literary dodo reflected a hidden truth about the real bird. For 10 million years on Mauritius, the dodo had lived in a world where everyone won. There was enough fruit for all, enough space for every tortoise and parrot. The dodo had no concept of losing, of predators, or of competition. By placing the dodo in Wonderland, Carroll captured the essence of the bird's lost paradise, a place where the rules of the harsh mainland did not apply. As the years passed, the dodo's image evolved from a curious specimen to a powerful warning. It became the poster child for extinction. Its story taught us a word we had once ignored: irreversible. The dodo showed us that once a thread is pulled from the tapestry of life, it cannot simply be sewn back in. It became the symbol of the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust, founded by Gerald Durrell, who chose the dodo because it represents the very core of his mission: to prevent the quiet disappearance of uncelebrated species. Even today, the dodo continues to inspire. In the world of modern science, there is a bold, romantic dream of de-extinction. Scientists are looking at the dodo's genome, comparing it to the Nicobar pigeon, and wondering if we might one day hear that doo-doo call in the Mauritian woods once again. Whether or not a dodo ever walks the earth in the flesh, the bird has already achieved a form of resurrection. It lives in every conservation law, in every protected park, and in every child's wonder at the strange and beautiful creatures that share our planet. We return one last time to the shores of Mauritius. The sun has finally cleared the horizon, and the Indian Ocean is now a sheet of hammered gold. Our dodo pair has moved to the edge of the woods, where the drier coastal air carries the salt of the sea. The male lets out one final low doo-doo call, a sound of contentment. He is a symbol of Raphina, a lineage that turned the sky into a home on the ground. As you drift into your final deep sleep, carry the image of the dodo with you, not as a symbol of ineptitude or failure, but as a masterpiece of nature. The dodo reminds us that every creature, no matter how strange its shape, has a home where it is the protagonist. Its story is a love letter to a world that was once perfectly in balance. The forest is quiet. The research is complete. The mystery is honored. You are as safe and grounded as the dodo in its golden age. The island of Mauritius is still there, its mountains rising out of the sea like sleeping giants, holding the memories of the birds that once walked its shores. The dodo is at rest, the ocean is steady, and you are exactly where you need to be.